What is up, you dame and gents? This is your boy Angelo, and this is podcast number 34. Yep, which is how old I am. Aww. I know. Last night I was thinking about that. I'm 34 years old, and not that long ago, 34 seemed to be such an old age. Even 10 years ago, 24-year-old Angelo, if you would ask him, hey, how does 34 sound like? He'd probably say, oh, I hope I'm dead by then. Because it just seems like that's not even an age. That's just a number, man. But now that I'm 34, I don't really feel that much different than I did in my late 20s, for the most part. So it's just strange. I never thought I'd be 34. I think most of us probably that are roughly this age probably have thoughts like that too. Like, where the fuck did the time go? How am I actually 34? Physically, I feel like I'm 60. And mentally, I feel like I'm still a teenager. So I'm all over the fucking map. Anyway, before I move on, speaking of funny words, I think we all know what Pizzagate is, right? Pizzagate, it's the QAnon thing. Is it just me, or does Pizzagate just sound like a dope name for an actual pizza restaurant? Like, once all this, MAGA, far-right, conservative, evangelical shit dies down, I mean, they've always been a minority, and they will always stay concerned, but once all that shit dies down, and that whole movement can stop taking things, like they've already taken the OK symbol. I used to play that shit in high school all the time. You do the OK symbol by your hip, your buddy looks, you say gotcha, then you punch him in the arm. That was a dope game. And anyway, Pizzagate just sounds like a great name for a pizza restaurant that's like futuristic sci-fi. You see what I'm coming at? If you combine pizza and Stargate, you get Pizzagate. So it could be a futuristic pizza place. Maybe inside you could be like, oh, this is a pizza place on the moon or Mars or some shit. It'd be kind of cool. It'd be like a nice little diner. Oh, well, if I had some money, that's what I would do. I would open a pizza place and call it Pizzagate and have it be sci-fi futuristic inside. A little Blade Runner-esque, little Dune. It'd be kind of cool, man. And it would kind of be like Bob's Burgers, where everything off the menu would have a pun based on a sci-fi name. Like, you could have it be Logan's Run. That's a dope movie. And have Logan's Run be something like Bacon's Run. And have it just be bacon, and then you could describe where bacon is the Logan in that scenario. I didn't say it was perfect. I'm just thinking about this on the spot. I need to work on this, but and since we're speaking of that MAGA movement, I've had a lot of discussion since last Wednesday with a lot of different people, and I have grown to have a level of empathy and compassion for most of the protesters from last Wednesday, the 7th. Was that the 7th? It's going to be like 9/11 now. It's just going to be a date set in infamy, in my opinion. But what the fuck actual date was it? It was the 6th, not the 7th. I was off by one. So 1/6. 1/6/21. Oh, I guess for the sake of the argument, I can't think of another word. I really don't have much forgiveness for those who stormed the Capitol on a mission to, murder, kidnap, beat up, the ones that wanted to allegedly find and lynch Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence. Maybe they want to kill Mike Pence. I'm 50-50 on that one. But those people I have no respect for. I don't really see your cause. It's hard for me to meet you halfway. It's hard for me to even give you the benefit of the doubt. But the other people who truly thought that because the sitting president was telling them these things, they had to be true. This is all a conspiracy against the president. I'm a patriot. I'm a true hero. Those are the people I feel bad for because they are stupid, dumb fuck idiots. But how did they get to that point? That's what we all have to look at. However, saying all this, that I feel bad for these people, some of them, knowing what we know now and seeing what we did, and having it be condemned, that Capitol building riot, and have it be condemned across the board. And yes, you still have some senators that are still pro-Trump, and there's this one cunt who wants to impeach Biden right away. Those are the people that should get zip-tied and put a black mask over their face, you know what I'm saying? Or a black hood or some shit. Israeli style. Pretend they're Palestinians. And so those people, feel like I should be tarred and feathered and have them walk through the streets, Game of Thrones style, with someone out front chanting shame, shame, and everyone can throw tomatoes and poopy stuff at them. But what the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, so seeing what we saw, knowing what we know, and seeing the measures that are taking place. I mean, it is jarring and upsetting to see hundreds, if not thousands, of National Guardsmen stationed around the Capitol. All 50 capitals, really, but in D.C., I mean, it looks like it's wartime, like we're waiting for an invasion from the Reds. But really, we're having invasions from Nazis and Confederate cunts from our own country. This is insanity. So, if that shit flies again, I am for a more violent response if things get violent like last time. I try my hardest to believe in the ideology, never shoot first, defend, 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 and at the last resort, if non-violence measures are not working, and you've even done somewhat violent measures, for example, tear gas, flash grenades, rubber bullets, tasing, mace, all of these things, and it's still not working, and you still have these inbred MAGA fucks charging at you, you're going to have to start using live rounds. And I understand you may want to shoot not to kill, but, in some ways, in the back of my mind, I have to say, these people that are still going to do this, a violent protest or a violent riot after seeing what happened on the 6th, if they're still going to do that, they are literally willing to go die on that hill. I don't know how else you can deal with them. I'm not a military expert. I'm not a negotiator working for the police department. All I see is, look, you have the information. You have it. The president threw you all under the bus. And if you still believe in this, and you still want to cause mayhem, you still want to beat cops to death with a fire extinguisher and the butt of your gun, then I'm sorry. I don't know what we can do with you that's non-violent. I really don't. And that hurts me. I don't want to see bloodshed. I don't want to see it, but I don't know what else to do, So, in summary, I feel bad for some of the rioters last week, but I don't feel bad for what happens next, depending on what happens, if you catch my drift. If there's a violent insurrection again, and I end up seeing video of National Guardsmen pulling a Kent State and blasting people. Well, that's not a fair comparison. Kent State were peaceful protesting students, but if you see the kind of shit that you see in third world countries, or as our president has lovely called them, shithole countries, and how they get dealt with, you kind of have to scratch your head and say, well, why are they still doing this? Why? I don't know. And it's, and lastly, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, I just kind of want to give you my thoughts about it. I have always been against removing the so-called, well, let me rephrase. I've always been for speech online, within reason. Once you start to incite violence or incite racism, something like that, then you should lose your platform according to the business that's kicking you off, whether that be Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, doesn't fucking matter. And I have defended Twitter not blocking President Trump in the past. But after what happened on the 6th, you have to do that. And I understand the other argument saying that's a lot of power for a tech company to kick the President of the United States off. Yes, but that's not normal. You can't really draw a line in the sand and say, you cross it, there's no going back. Well, I feel like this is a good line to draw in the sand here. If the president incites insurrection using this tool, then the president should not have that tool. And I hear the other side start to say, well, there's actual dictators that are allowed to have a social media. Yeah, okay. But this also goes back to Twitter as a business. They can do whatever the fuck they want, including to the president, to celebrities, to athletes, whom the fuck ever. And yes, it is a little drunken on power to kick off the president off your platform. However, it's not like he did something that didn't deserve it. Come on. Seriously. That's crazy. Can you imagine saying a quarter of the shit that the president has said in 5 or 10 years, however long he's been on Twitter? You would be kicked off instantly. So, that's all I have to say on that. Fuck Trump. I'm worried about the inauguration, but I'm hoping nothing happens. But again, if something does happen, and some of those MAGA inbred Confederate Nazi scummy cunts get killed by National Guardsmen or the military, I'm not going to shed a tear. I'm not going to shed a tear because you know what's going to happen. You saw what was going to happen. So, and I don't know. I just hope this wasn't an inside job. You have to question people like Jim Jordan and Louis Gohmert and some other fuckers. And I forget the cunt's name who wants to impeach Biden. Those people you kind of have to question. Did they have a role in this? Because, oh, my food's here. The fact that there are so many ex-military and current and ex law enforcement officers in that riot, you kind of have to question, well, who else was in there? You know, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But I'm going to keep things light. I'm going to light up a J. I'm going to grab my dinner. And let's dive into the Angelo Grosso podcast, I suppose. Let's get the boring personal stuff out of the way first. I haven't talked about any romance stuff in a while because there's no news. There's not a whole lot going on that front. I think this second wave of closures and the mutated strain of COVID and the weather has been awful. And just, I don't know, a couple different factors. The Capitol Hill riots and a bunch of stuff. It's just like there hasn't been a lot of people, not a lot of activity with people on these dating apps. And I was talking to one girl on and off for a couple months, but we never video chatted, never phone calls, all through text. And I think it was a pretty mutual thing that we were just, you know, having a good time talking to one another. Nice little, mutual bonding there. It never got too romantic. We never talked about anything too sexual or anything. So we never met. We were talking about it, but she sent some weird cryptic text to me one time. It said something about wanting to take some time to surround herself with family at this time or something. I don't know. It was something along the lines of, I need to surround myself with good people right now. I assumed I was in that group. I thought we shared some stuff over the last couple months, enough that I was included in this group of friends, family, well-wishers, everything. You know, we were sharing food recipes, we were sharing wine recommendations, movies, music, everything. But then I didn't hear from her for a couple days. Text her, hey, what's going on? And she said, oh, sorry, I've just been working on myself. And that's when I realized, holy shit, I'm not in the group. I'm not in that special clique she's trying to close around herself. So, but I said, fuck it. I wasn't that excited anyway. And I really wasn't looking forward to the meeting. So, that's really the only update for y'all on the love train that Angelo's riding. It seems to be a rudderless train. It seems to be a conductorless train. No one's at the helm, if you catch my meaning. And so we're just going to careen off the edge here soon. But I'm just being dramatic. Things are okay. I'm not hitting the panic button. I'm just, having some fun. I truly do think once things start to open up, people start getting open-minded enough to meet new people, go to bars, go to restaurants, cafes, whatnot, I think things will start to get a little bit better along those lines. Tell you what, business is booming on these dating apps is prostitution and OnlyFans. I mean, ladies, if you are hurting for some cash and you don't want to do anything too sexual or you're not willing to, I'm telling you, if you just take some pictures of your dirty ass feet, there are some jabroni out there that'll give you $40 for those photos. I'm serious. The weird shit I see on these dating apps lately, because again, like I said, there is no, at least I'm not getting contacted by real life people, and I know I'm not contacting anybody. But the people that are contacting me tend to be prostitutes, sex workers, ladies of the night of the red light district. Or is it the red light special? That's the TLC song, Red Light Special, which is a banging song. That'll be my first dance at my wedding. It will be to TLC's Red Light Special. Fuck yeah. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, that's right. And so I get these messages from these women that are like, hey, check out my OnlyFans, check out my Google account, check out my link. I don't know what this website is, and I'm being truthful with you people. I have never gone to this website. I would tell you if I had, but I'm getting a lot of ladies that send me a website called Best BJ or World's Best BJ, something to do with BJ.com, and it's so funny to me. And these profiles that I get these links from, the women's ages are all over the place. You get some that are in their 20s, and then you get women that are like in their 50s, and you're like, I don't even know what the business plan of this BJ website is, but I'm not intrigued enough to check it out. Why? Because I don't want a virus on my phone. So, yeah, if I was a girl, I would for sure have an OnlyFans, but I wouldn't show my titties or anything, or my coochie or nothing. Do people still call it coochie? All right, clam. I wouldn't show my clam or anything on there, but you know, I have nothing against showing my feet. What else are guys weirdly into? Armpits, maybe? I'm sure there's guys that are into armpits. Knees, maybe? I don't know. I'm just thinking of weird shit. Ears, noses. Well, you can't just do anything that will give you defining features, in case you care about those things. But anyway, that's all I'm saying. If Angelo Grosso was a woman, she would have an OnlyFans site. That's all I'm trying to get. That's my point. That's the point I'm trying to get across here. All right, let's switch gears here. Let's talk movies, baby. I am smoking the Chemy joint again. This is my second one this week. Chemy is fast becoming one of my favorite strains here. So let's take a nice little puff here before we talk about our first movie. Oh yeah, good stuff. Oh yeah. Okay. The first movie we're going to talk about is, in my opinion, the most disappointing movie that I'm going to talk about today, because I was the most excited for this movie. I've been excited for this movie for about a year and a half. The movie I am referring to is Tenet. Now, I have seen every single Christopher Nolan movie, and I gotta say, by far, this is the worst Christopher Nolan movie. This movie kind of sucks. And I think if it wasn't directed by Christopher Nolan, this movie would have worse reviews. Because I'm looking on IMDb and it has a 7.5 out of 10. To me, that is two numbers too high. I'd give this piece of shit a 5.5 out of 10. Because not only was the dialogue awful, the acting for the most of it was awful and like overacted and unbelievably so. The audio quality was garbage, and it wasn't like the overall audio quality was bad, but in certain important scenes in terms of the dialogue, like important shit is being said, you know, shit setting up the plot. And for instance, there was a scene where they're in a speedboat and you have three main characters talking, but all you can hear is the goddamn speedboat and the water, and you can't hear what's being said. It's awful. And there's action scenes where, again, important dialogue is being said, but you can't hear anything. The dialogue is so fucking low, you have to turn on subtitles. It's ridiculous. Like, what was the point? Turn that shit up, motherfucker. The payoff was just too muddled. And the idea was kind of cool, but they took it in this weird direction that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And it just seemed like a lazy, rushed, kind of half-assed movie. And I expect to be entertained better than that by Christopher Nolan. Even his last movie, Dunkirk, which I thought was decent. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. It was well put together. But Tenet, it's a pile of shit. I can't believe he fought this movie's release so hard for streaming rights. He wanted this movie only to be seen in the movie theaters. You pretentious motherfucker. I am happy I didn't spend $15 fucking dollars to see this shit on IMAX. Ugh. So, let me back up a little bit and tell you what this movie's about. So, armed with only one word, tenant, and fighting for the survival of the entire world, a protagonist, that's his name, journeys through a twilight world of international espionage, not really, on a mission that will unfold in something beyond real time. Kind of, but eh. And I gotta say, the main star, John David Washington, I think he did okay, but I can't blame him for this, but some of his dialogue was so shitty. And it was almost like a B movie. And it could have been the way he was saying it, but it just sounded off kilter. Like he would have these little wisecracking one-liners at a time that would make no sense to be saying something like that. The main actress, I'm drawing a blank on her name. She overacted. I wasn't a fan. I did like Robert Pattinson in it. And the surprise guy, Aaron Taylor Johnson, he was good in it. The Irishman or the Scottishman. I think he was Scottish. But I tell you, Kenneth Branagh, way overacted. He played the most cliche Russian gangster. I thought I was watching a schlocky film because it was so bad. He was so bad in this movie. And I'm generally a fan of Kenneth Branagh. I don't think he's above reproach or whatnot, but this was awful. And just the plot about not future crimes, but like the weapons could go in and out of time, so you would be going forward and backwards at the same time. So I mean, it took a weird concept already, but you can kind of wrap your head around the idea of a multiverse in a sense, so that there is a version of Angelo talking on a podcast right now, and then there's an Angelo an hour down the road done with the podcast, and then I think there also could be an Angelo an hour ahead that hasn't started the podcast yet. I don't know. I think I'm making up my own movie now, but Tenet was a clusterfuck. Just because the plot is hard to understand with all this mumbo jumbo doesn't mean it's a good plot. And not to mention, this fucking thing is 2.5 hours long. Fail. So, a rare miss by Christopher Nolan. Dare I say, it gets a fuck you out of your boy Angelo here. So yes, Christopher Nolan, go fuck yourself for thinking this movie was so good. You had to go see it in the theaters. You had to spend your fucking money in IMAX to appreciate it. You won't appreciate this movie sitting in your underwear in your pajamas and watching it on your couch at home on your TV. Ugh, you're what's wrong with America, Christopher Nolan. Get the fuck out of here. Okay, moving on to the next movie. Another movie I was pretty excited about. Not as much as Tenet, but I was still generally excited to see it. Wonder Woman 1984. And just like Tenet, it's a pile of shit. Even more so. I don't know what the fuck they were trying to do with this movie either. I understood from the beginning of the movie that they were trying to honor some of the campiness from the 80s movies. And while I appreciate that idea, but this is a sequel to a Wonder Woman movie where the first movie had none of this campiness in it. In fact, it was quite dark in a lot of areas. And all the other Justice League movies that Wonder Woman was in, and the Batman v Superman, wasn't campy either. So this campiness comes out of nowhere in terms of this character. In fact, this campiness isn't in any other DC movie that I'm aware of. So it just doesn't fit. So right away, you're like, this doesn't even feel like a sequel. It feels like a TV movie. And God almighty, is the acting horrific. Even Gal Gadot's like unfair to humanity's good lookingness. Like, she is so attractive, it offends me. Like, if I ever see her in person, I feel like I would be staring at the sun and my eyes would just shrivel up like raisins and then explode. Like, she's not meant to be looked at by most people. And in any other time, her beauty would keep her locked away in a castle where only a few people in the world would be able to see her. Like, Indiana Jones would have to somehow free her. Now, there's your fucking next Indiana Jones movie. But even her, that hot Israeli bitch, this movie sucked balls. It was awful. And I know everyone's complaining about the CGI on Kristen Wiig's villain, Cheetah or Cheeto or whatever the fuck her name is. What the fuck is her character's name? Uh, Barbara Minerva. Yeah, but what was the villain? I'm going to call her Cheetah. I think that's right. And by the way, the best actress in this movie was only in the beginning, and that's Robin Wright. Robin Wright's a damn good actress, and they killed her off in the first movie? You dumb fucks. Chris Pine, who I like as a person. Like, I've seen him in interviews and shit. He seems like a nice guy. It makes no sense that he's even in this movie. Like, even he's surprised that he's in the movie. And not to mention, he gets surprised by things that he shouldn't be surprised by. Now, I feel like I should back up. This movie is called Wonder Woman 1984 because it takes place in 1984. And it's like they tried, I mean, it's literally filmed in the Stranger Things mall, by the way. Like, it's such a ripoff of this nostalgia trip that America went through like 3 years ago. I don't think we were loving the 80s anymore. Like, when Stranger Things came out, that kind of started it. And we all were like, yeah, the 80s weren't so bad. And like, yeah, we got some cool movies, some cool TV shows, some nice music. And this movie just seems to be riding that wave, but it's a couple of years too late. And so it just doesn't make sense. And the villain is just like, he's basically supposed to be Donald Trump. But he's played by the Mandalorian himself, and he's a fucking hamming it up. But everyone's hammy. Everybody. It just doesn't fit the fucking characters that we've come to expect. And what else is garbage in it? Yeah, so it's all about making wishes. So like, you make a wish, and this like dildo looking crystal. And by the way, if you saw that movie and you saw that crystal, how is it not a dildo? That thing is a motherfucking dildo. Some prop guy made that as a joke, thinking, no way are they going to approve this. And they did, and he just rode with it, baby. I feel like I'm spending too much time talking about this pile of trash movie. I wouldn't watch it. And again, this is another movie that was delayed because it just had to be seen in the movie theaters. You had to see this shit in IMAX. Holy fuck. If I would have spent $30 fucking to go watch Tenet and Wonder Woman 1984 in the movie theaters, I would have helped shoot up the next one. That's dark. I'm just having a good time, people. I'm just trying to push the boundary a little bit. It's pretty funny though. That's pretty funny. Moving on to a movie that surprised me in a good way, The Midnight Sky. Now, I like George Clooney. I like outer space movies. I like the George Clooney outer space movie Solaris. A lot of people don't like that movie. They're called ignorant. But this is why I was excited to see the movie. I had no idea that it was a beloved book and that the devout followers of the book are so infuriated at this movie because of the lack of respect and accuracy, which I can't make fun of them too much because I've seen movies based on books that I love that have been travesties and I get infuriated. I don't go on the internet and write bad reviews and call people who disagree with me beta cuck soy boys. Well, not anymore, I don't do that, but that's why I think if you go on IMDb and you look up The Midnight Sky and you see that 5.6 out of 10 and you're like, Angelo's recommending this movie? Let me explain. If you actually click on the ratings and read through them, you realize a lot of these people are trolls because the movie does butcher the book. I haven't even read the book, but based on what I'm seeing, and I looked up the book online, I was like, oh shit, it kind of did. So I understand why people hate that. But from my standing, you got to separate the two. And so just as the movie itself, I think this rating should be a little bit higher. I would give it a 7.6 out of 10. It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, there were some pretty cringeworthy moments and scenes where you're just like, ooh, this movie. Ooh. But overall, I thought it was a beautiful movie. And it was well acted. The plot was good. I think another reason people felt snake bit by this movie is that the trailer made it look like it was a action movie or more of an action movie than what it actually was. Which, another space movie that I loved, Ad Astra. Is it Ad Astra or Ad Astra? The Brad Pitt one that came out like 2 years ago. I love that movie. In fact, I saw it the other night for the second time. Still holds up. But that movie got a lot of bad reviews because the trailer did make it look like an action movie. And that movie has action scenes, but it is not an action movie. nor would I say The Midnight Sky is an action movie. I remember the trailer. I don't remember a lot of action, but maybe there was other trailers, maybe an international one. Fuck if I know. The point being, the movie that I saw, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Prepare yourself for some cringeworthy moments, like I said, involving the spaceship scenes, and there are some scenes involving George Clooney and the other character with him, this girl, that were kind of like, what the fuck, that's unrealistic. And I'm not going to give any spoiler reviews, but you can forgive some of them because they get forgiven by a certain thing in the movie. But other scenes, he's in the Arctic, right? Isn't he in, does it say? He's in the Arctic, George Clooney. He's trying to warn these people in the spaceship. That's all I'm going to tell you. So he's trekking in the Arctic and he falls in the water. So, right away, even a dumb fuck knows if you're in the Arctic, it's cold there, by the way, and you fall in water, it's colder. You basically have 20 seconds until you're ice cubing it up. And this movie had a scene where he was swimming in the water and like fighting and everything and trying to rescue shit that was sinking. He was in the water for a couple minutes and you're like, he's dead. And then he crawls out and then he's like, fine. I'm like, are you getting... Like that was a very unforgivable scene. That's where I was like, I may have to turn this mofo off. But I'm glad I didn't. I enjoyed it. So I would say on this list, and I'm not done yet, this movie, I would give it the most surprisingly enjoyable movie label. Moving on, I got this movie recommended to me by my manager. I recommended Midnight Sky. He said he hated it. I was surprised because he and I usually agree on movies and music and TV and just overall. We're pretty simpatico. He recommended this movie to me called Run on Hulu. I think it came out about Halloween. No, it came out in November, so just after Halloween. Well, you guys fucked up. It's a horror movie. Yeah, I should have released it in September and October. Somebody dropped the ball at Hulu. Someone deserves to get fired. Now, this movie has a 6.7 rating out of 10. I would say drop that down 2 numbers. 4.7 out of 10. This is by far the worst movie we're going to talk about. I give it credit where credit's due. It's a small movie. Feels like a student film, filmed on the cheap. It's only an hour and a half long, and it's really just 2 actors. And those are Sarah Paulson and Kira Allen. Is that her name? Kira Allen, the star? Yeah. So, in summary, let me give you the plot here. A homeschooled teenager begins to suspect her mother is keeping a dark secret from her. That really doesn't do it justice. The homeschooled teenager is homeschooled because she's in a goddamn wheelchair. And she has, like, all of the problems. Asthma, diabetes, her bones are fucked up, her muscles are shaky, and she's a teenager girl, which is already a handicap. And Sarah Paulson is playing her mother, who Sarah Paulson is up and down. She's good in some things, really awful in other things, and as a person, I think she drives me nuts. She was in that awful video, the Imagine video all those Hollywood elites released, to just tell us common folk it's okay. Because that's what we need. Rich actors telling us it's okay. Ugh. But the movie itself, I'll give it another kudos for actually using an actress that was actually paralyzed and needing a wheelchair. So they didn't cast some faker, dare I say, an actor, to play someone in a wheelchair. They actually got a teenager who is legitimately in a wheelchair. So that's kind of cool. That's the only kudos I'll give this movie is that. It was very predictable. It was so predictable. It wasn't even fun. Like, you knew what was going to happen. I take it back. I'll give this movie credit another area. It was the ending. It was very satisfying. I thought it would happen, but I thought, this movie's not going to do that. But it did. So I give that movie credit, the ending. But I can't tell you about it because they'd be spoiling it. So, yes, this girl starts to suspect that the medication she's on for her many ailments isn't what it's supposed to be. It's a secret. So that's the movie. And it's basically her trying to figure the shit out. But if you've seen any jump scare horror movie in the past 50 years, you know what to expect. You know what to expect. So, if you have an hour and a half to kill and you want to jump a little bit and you get entertained very easily, check out Run. The last movie we'll talk about is Uncle Frank. I just saw this a couple nights ago. It's on Prime. It's also an hour and a half long. I'm liking these short movies. We don't need 2.5 hour movies unless they're like a superhero movie or a Lord of the Rings movie. Then sign this motherfucker up. This movie, Uncle Frank, is the best. Let me read the synopsis here as I just mumble over myself. In 1973, when Frank Bledsoe and his 18-year-old niece Beth take a road trip from Manhattan to Creekville, South Carolina, for the family patriarch's funeral, they are unexpectedly joined by Frank's lover, Waleed. So yes, this is an LGBT comedy drama. It stars Paul Bettany, Sophia Lillis, and there's a bunch of other really good character actors in here like Steve Zahn, Judy Greer, Margot Martindale, Stephen Root. Who plays Waleed? Peter Macdossie? Now, he was excellent in it. They played the lover. I've never seen this guy before. Is he actually from Saudi Arabia? Because that's where his character is from. He's from Lebanon. Close enough. So anyway, it just didn't really go into it, but no, he's gay. And Uncle Frank is gay. We know this like in the first couple minutes of the movie. It's not a spoiler. And so involves him being gay in 1973 and going back to the South to deal with all that shit. So it has a cliche kind of tone about like the South views on the gays and stuff. But I will say this, it goes a little bit the area of Green Book and keeps it just on the surface enough for mainstream audiences to understand it. But it does have some depth every now and then. Other areas, it's very cliche, and you're like, oh my god, this is cookie cutter. But overall, I gotta say the acting is good, especially Paul Bettany and Peter Macdossie, however you say his name. He's excellent. And so I was surprised by this movie. It was a lot better than I thought. I thought it was basically going to be a Paul Bettany showing off his chops. It wasn't it. It was more of an ensemble cast job, and it was good. I'm not going to say it's excellent. What rating does it have? A 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. I wouldn't give it a 7.3. I'm a stickler, so I got to give it a 7.1, but I'm splitting hairs. It was a pretty decent movie, and I was expecting it to be good, and it was good. I like Paul Bettany. I just finished up WandaVision. I love what they're doing. I love it, love it, love it. I like the nostalgia about it, and I like how the first episode is 1950s, the second episode is the 60s, and you see the next coming episodes are going to be different decades, and they're honoring like the I Love Lucy's and the Bewitches and the Roseanne show, it looks like, and the Mary Tyler Moore show. I love this shit. I love Marvel and shit. I feel like I'm saying shit a lot. I'm also watching The History of Swearing on Netflix, and it's done by Nicolas Cage. Kind of a stupid show, but it's entertaining. What do you want? Plus, they do give you a little bit of history, and you're assuming it's real because it's on Netflix, and why would they lie to you? So, anyway, let's move on here. So, in closing, I just want to say, I don't ever want to hear in the future that this country cannot have a female president because of the emotional risks that come with having a woman running the country. Oh, what is she going to do when it's that time of the month? Would the first husband have to take over? All those sexist shit you would hear. Because for the last 4 years, we've had such an emotional bitch in office that, no. Donald Trump is far worse than any human being could ever be. So I don't want to hear that stuff anymore. And honestly, if you wanted Trump to win re-election, people, you should have put more MAGA signs in your front yard. You should have lifted your truck even taller. You should have put even brighter beams on those fucking trucks. You should have dangled larger brass testicles off your bumper. You should have put more bumper stickers that showed Black lives don't matter. In fact, only blue lives matter. All lives matter. And make sure you put AR-15 stickers on those fucking trucks too. And make sure that when you're just in casual conversation with people, just bring up politics or bring up conspiracy theories. If you just did more of those things, that's how you would have gotten what you wanted and had another Trump 4 years. Are you out of your fucking minds, you know? I can forgive a lot. I can sit down and listen to a lot of opinions that I disagree with, but at a certain point, you have to wonder, where the fuck did it all go wrong with some of these people? And I'm not saying everything I believe in is correct. In fact, I've had changes of mind on a lot of things because of new information. And for an example, I used to vehemently be against guns. I wanted to ban all guns. I wanted the Second Amendment repealed. I believe I was in college at this time. But over time, I listened to actual responsible gun owners, actual responsible hunters, big game hunters. Not every NRA member is a nut job. The NRA is awful, but not all members are crazy. And now I feel like I have a better understanding, and now I know more of the facts, and now I feel like I have a better opinion, and I can back it up based on these things. And so I have changed my opinion from where it was to somewhere now in the middle. Some would say still a little too far extreme. Some would say not extreme enough. But for me, I'm at least happy with it, and I feel confident in my ability to talk about it if need be. And I feel like a lot of these Trumpers just are not willing to say they made a mistake. I hope they do. And I truly hope that nothing major happens in the days leading up to Inauguration Day and after. I don't know. I don't know if MAGA should become a permanent slur, but if you want to start using the term MAGA instead of retard, I think I'd be okay with that. Look at this MAGA looking motherfucker over here. Did you put metal in the microwave, you MAGA mother? You know, it's funny. We shouldn't, because it shames, but I think if we add comedy to it, comedy cures all, I think, you know. If you can't laugh at something, go fuck yourself, you know. I think that would be an okay use of the word, you know. I don't want to vilify them. Like, I don't want them to put in re-education camps. I say that now. Let's see what happens on Inauguration Day. But I have hope that nothing major will happen. They saw what happened, and truly, I truly believe that they will just... There'll maybe be some skirmishes, but I don't think of anything like a civil war, or I can't imagine there being... I don't even want to talk about it. It's too upsetting to even imagine. It's bad enough that I see National Guardsmen and military personnel, you know, lying around the Capitol. Ugh, it's awful. It's like a really awful movie. That's what America really is at this point. It's just an awful movie that you just want to turn off, but you want to see where it goes. I don't like any of the characters. There's no redeeming qualities. I feel so bad for the people. They don't get much screen time because the main stars are just assholes. Can they all die? Can we get a new cast in here? But no, in all sincerity, I'm trying my hardest to put on a brave face and try to stay positive for the next coming weeks. I truly think that once a stimulus package gets passed and a better vaccine rollout comes to place, because the current vaccine rollout, it's been pretty fucking awful. But I think once people get this, whatever it's going to be, $2,000, $1,200, $1,400, the Democrats control everything, and they said $2,000, and now Biden unveiled his new plan, and it's like, oh, you're going to get $1,600 or $1,400 instead. Like, what happened? What happened to the remaining money? But I guess I shouldn't complain. You're getting something. I just don't understand. You have all the power, and you're taking away money from the poor. Like, it should go the other way, but whatever. Maybe I'm too progressive. But back to the point, once people get their money and a vaccine and the businesses start to open up, I think a lot of this divisiveness, this political outrage is going to die down. Not all the way. We're going to go back to what it was, 2.5 years ago or some shit. I don't fucking know. This pandemic feels like it's been an eternity. But anyway, I love you, everybody. Thanks for listening. And I hope everything's going well for you guys. By the way, for future reference, if you want me to talk about anything on the podcast, shoot me a message. And if I can talk about it on the podcast, say yay or nay. And yeah, take it sleazy. And I will leave you with this masterpiece of internet in reference to the infamous viral video of that woman exiting the Capitol Hill riots and she was complaining about what the police were rightfully doing to her. And some genius, some unnamed hero, took her quote and put it to the Animaniacs theme song. And I've been watching this for days, and I still pee my pants listening to it. So here we go. I'm not going to promise I'm not going to die of laughter here. just thinking about it is getting me all excited. But here we go.
They push me on and paste me.
One more time. One more motherfucking time. This is killing me.
They push me on and paste me.
The fucking laugh at the end. One more time, and try to pick up the laughing at the end.
They push me on and paste me.
Okay, enough. We're done here.